let's get pumped, let's get prepped. Le code de la route. The signs, yeah. I honestly didn't even give this a lot of thought at all. No points. How very wrong I was. Today I thought I would talk about getting my French driver's license. So of course, whenever you move to a new country, you know that you're gonna have a lot of things to do. Administrative tasks, you've got to get yourself moved internationally. You have to get your initial paperwork together. And one of the things that you may want to do is to think about getting a driver's license or exchanging your former driver's license for a driver's license in your new home country. I honestly didn't even give this a lot of thought at all back in the States because I just assumed that it would be fairly easy. I've had my driving permit for a little while now. I got my driving permit on my 16th birthday. I think on the day of my 16th birthday, if I'm not mistaken. I'm from Ohio originally. And in Ohio, as in a lot of places around the States, you kind of have to drive to get where you want to go because there isn't a whole lot of public transportation. Frankly, I remember very little about the test except for that it didn't seem that hard at the time. And I know I took driver's ed, but I don't remember studying super hard for this. Well, cut to all these years later and moving to France, I had heard that you had to exchange your driver's license within the first year of arriving. Great. But then when I started looking more deeply into it, I found out something super surprising. I had no idea that there are certain states in the US that have a relationship or an accord with the French state so that you can exchange your driver's license with really, I think, no muss, no fuss. You have to, of course, go through French administration and go to your prefecture or your mairie, I'm not sure, but you have to exchange it, so you have to do the paperwork for that. But you don't have to do anything in terms of proving your worthiness as an actual driver. However, there are also some states in the US that do not have this accord. And wouldn't you know, that New York, my state of residence for many, many years, does not have that accord with France. As you can imagine, I was surprised, not super delighted, and really just confused as to what the process was going to be and why I had to do this after so many years of clean driving. I thought, okay, well, no big deal. They're going to, force me to take a test again. I've been driving for so long. I've drove in New York City for 20 years. You got nothing on me. How very wrong I was. And it is something you just have to realize. You move to a new country, you're going to experience new things. Well, this, unbeknownst to me, le code de la route, okay, getting your permis de conduite, your driver's permit in France is no joke, people. It's very serious. It's no joke. It happens in two parts, like the driver's license in the States does. There's a written part. That's called le code de la route. It's like the rules of the road, I guess. And then there's the la pratique, or the road test. And you have to do the written exam first before you can even schedule the road test. Or if you want to take driving lessons, you have to finish your written test before you can schedule your driving lessons. Okay, well, how hard can this be? I will go sign myself up at a driving school. I'll take the test tomorrow, the written test. Then I'll be able to make my appointment for the thing. Oh, I was so innocent then. This was just a couple months ago. I found a local driving school here in my neighborhood. I went in, I spoke to them. They said, sure, no problem. They charged me, I think it was less than 100 euros. And that was including the fees for the exam itself. And it included an online platform that had everything you need to know, videos. They call them test blanc, or practice exams. And so I said, okay, this is good. To be honest with you, I did 2 practice exams. I was just like, oh, I'll just sign up for this, no problem. I did the practice test, just failed woefully. Now, I speak French. I do speak French. I've been studying French for a very long time. So I wasn't really worried about the vocabulary, but then I realized that entering into a whole new world of driving, there's a lot of vocabulary. I didn't know how to say, how do you say hit and run? How do you say, brake fluid? And so all those things were coming into play, and I realized, oh man, if it's like this, I think I'm gonna have to buckle down and try to study for this. So I gave myself a couple of weeks. I watched the videos. I got myself a book that has all the rules, and all along the way, my husband, who is half French and half German, was showing me, signs along the road and helping me to understand, because being this kind of, I don't want to say cocky, but like New Yorker driver, and from Ohio, like we drive in the snow, we drive on the ice, we're not afraid of driving, and in New York, there was nothing intimidating about this process to me until I got into the middle of it. What I realized was that the French are extremely serious about their driving. And whatever your opinions may be about like French drivers, or American drivers for that matter, or New York drivers, what you have to go through to pass this test is really quite something. You have to know that, for example, in France, you have to have in your car at all times a little yellow reflective vest. And if anything happens, you get a flat tire, your car breaks down, you have to put that vest on before you step out of the car. Like, that's the law. You have to know all of the amende, or the tickets that you can get, the points on your license. You just have to know a lot more. You have to know about the tires on your car to take the written test. They give you a series of sort of video scenarios and ask you, okay, this is the situation that I find myself in. Can I accelerate and change lanes? Can I take a left at the next intersection? All these hypothetical questions, and you just have this feeling that it's all a trap. I studied. Honestly, I never did super well on these exams, and the written exam, you have to get a 35 out of 40, 35 questions correct out of 40. And the thing is that quite a number of the questions have two parts. So it'll be like this first part and then the second part, but it's one question. And if you get half of it wrong, you don't get half a point. You get no points. As someone who likes to win, I must admit I was super disappointed when I failed my first attempt at the written test, which I took at the post office. That's the thing here. You sign up with La Poste and you take your test there. And the guy was super nice. Didn't take very long. I got my results over email in like 20 minutes. Very disappointed to have failed by 1 point. So I got a 34 on my test. Just disappointed as all get out. Couldn't believe it. It felt unjust, but you know what? It is what it is. Immediately following that, I set up my next test for like 2 days later. And on that one, I did. So I got a 36 out of 40. And you know what? Happy with that. Great with that. Then I went out to coffee with one of my friends who lives in the neighborhood, and she just moved here because she also got married to a French guy. She was a resident of Washington, D.C. I'm not sure if her driver's license is from Washington, D.C., but she was living in Washington, D.C. And she does not have to do any of this process that I'm doing because she can just exchange her driver's license. What I will say is that having studied the rules of the road, le code de la route, and then having gone on to now do a few hours of driving lessons, I'm really happy that I've gone through this process, because what I've realized is everything I thought I knew, there's a lot I didn't know. We drive on the same side of the road here as we do in the United States, so that's a plus. But there are different rules about priority. And then of course there are the famous giratoires, or roundabouts, which in the US are just not that big of a thing. We have a few of them here and there, but there's not a lot of them. Am I jealous a little bit of my friend who doesn't have to do any of this? Well, yeah, I'd like to just walk in and get my new French driving license. That would be great. But in the end, I feel like I'm proud to be doing this, and I know I'm going to be a better driver, because there's all kinds of crazy stuff. The signs on the French road. What is the rocket ship road sign? I know now, but I'm saying the first time I saw it, I was like, what is the rocket ship? So after I passed my written test, I immediately went back to my driving school and I spoke to them and I said, look, okay, I passed this and now I want to set my date for my exam. But before I set my date for the road test, I would like to just have an evaluation so that I know I can talk to the instructor and I can find out, how does the exam go? Like, what are the parts of the exam? Do I look like I'm in pretty good shape for this? And especially because it's in the French language. So I wanted to make sure that I would understand the instructions that the examiner would be giving me and all of that stuff. I'm a planner. I like to be prepared. I made an appointment and I had a 1.5 hour session with a French driving instructor who was, how shall we say, it was an interesting experience. He was an older gentleman, a little bit stern, I would say. He made me nervous, frankly. And I think you do, anything you do naturally that you've been doing for a long time, when someone is suddenly like watching you do it, you're like, ah. And of course you don't know the car that you're driving in and whatnot, but we did a test run, and nothing bad happened during the test run. I did a parallel parking. He was like, très bien, or pas mal, which pas mal, not bad, in French means great job. At the end, I said, okay, so, what do you think? When can I take my test? And he said, well, you're not bad. You were curious behind the wheel, but you need to be checking your mirrors more, and I need to show you how to do this and do that. I think if you have 10 more sessions, that I would send you to the test without a problem. What? 10 more sessions? So we go back inside the school, and the lady who runs the school says, yes, and 10 sessions, just by the way, is 15 hours, because each session is 1.5 hours. And by the way, that'll be something like 120 euros per session. Sign here, give us your credit card. I'm so happy that I stood up for myself and I said, are you kidding me? And, to do this in French, it's not so easy. I'm a polite Midwestern born American. I mean, okay, a New Yorker too, but still. And I was like, I don't understand why I would need that much training. Could you tell me what I did wrong? They didn't have a list of anything that I had done wrong. I said, I'm going to think about it. I went back. I brought my husband back with me. They were like, look, if you want to have fewer lessons, we can start you with fewer lessons, and then we can tell you if you're ready. But basically what he was telling us was that they control when you get your exam date. And if you don't like it, then you can go try to do it on your own, which you are free to do. You can be a candidat libre. You go through the process yourself. You can fill it out online. But they said, it may take you 18 months to get your exam date. So go ahead, feel free to do that, or do it our way. We just said, okay, thank you very much. Just give us my dossier back, my file, which they did. And then we talked to some neighbors outside of Paris in the small town where we have a weekend home. And our neighbor told us, oh no, we know a great place in the city of Fontainebleau, which is right next door to where we are there. So we went over and we spoke to them. They were very nice. Each one of their sessions was 1 hour. It was half the price. They evaluated me quickly and told me I only needed 4 hours, maybe 5. They signed me up. And so now I am at that point where I'm about to take my road test. And it's in 2 days. So far, I've had 3 lessons. I have 1 more the day of my exam, just like a warm-up lesson. For the most part, I've had 2 teachers, but my teacher, for the most part, is a guy who, first time I saw him, I was like, oh, great. This guy, he looks terrifying. He's a young guy, and he's just very sleek looking, and he's got tattoos. And I thought, oh man, he's gonna look at me like American. I don't know. Anyway, so nice, so very nice, and has given me so many great pointers. I want to do him proud. And one of the things here is that your driving instructor gets in the car with you on the day of the exam with the examiner. So your instructor sits in the back, I guess, just like witness. You're using their car, so maybe that's why. So stay tuned. Let's see what happens. I've heard that when I take the road test, I won't have my results for 48 hours. So it may be early next week before I find out, but fingers crossed. Let's get pumped. Let's get prepped. Talk to you soon. Okay, bonjour, I'm here in the beautiful village of Fontainebleau on my way to the exam center where I'm going to take the road test to get my French driver's license. I'm nervous, je suis nerveuse, et ça va être en français. It's going to be in French. So it'll be an interesting test of my French level and my driving skills. On va voir. We're gonna see how it goes.